Join host Sandie Sedgbeer as she speaks with physicists, filmmakers, mystics, researchers, and revolutionaries. Those who walk the edge of known reality, and those who dare to question what lies beyond. This is Between Realms and Reason, bridging the inner and outer cosmos, one conversation at a time. Here's your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Have you ever thought that no matter how much inner work you do, the same struggles keep showing up? But what if your pain isn't personal, but ancestral? What if your biggest blocks were never yours to begin with? And what if, by acknowledging and releasing these buried imprints, you can not only reclaim your power, but finally become the person you were born to be? Chetan Parkyn is the world's leading authority on human design, with a background in engineering, a life of mystical training, and over 35 years of giving transformative readings. He's not only evolved human design for the modern era, but he's now taken it further than ever before with a groundbreaking new modality, karma clearing by design. Chetan Parkyn joins me now to discuss how ancestral trauma, unconscious conditioning, and karmic imprints get etched into our energy field, silently shaping our choices, sabotaging our growth, and dimming our true power, often without our knowing. And how karma clearing by design offers a path to healing ancestral wounds and releasing those unconscious imprints and inherited patterns blocking your soul's evolution. Chetan Parkyn, welcome.
Thank you, Sandie. Always a great pleasure to meet up with you.
You too.
Yes, and thank you for such an introduction. Let me just preface everything by just saying I work on the basis that life is a mystery. And in English, we can break that word into two and say, my story. So the mystery really is my story. And no matter who you are, what is going on for you, you're not living anybody else's life. And yet, you landed in a family, it may not be quite obvious why you landed in that family, what was the story going on with your parents and siblings and neighborhood and culture and country and religion and all that stuff. So all of us, we come in clean and clear, apparently. But almost from the moment we pop out into the world, we are surrounded by conditioning aspects. And so whether it's the family situation, whether it's the neighborhood situation, whether it's the school we go to, the teachers in the school, whether we get sent to church or temple or some religious background thing, somebody else's idea of what spirituality is, that we're taken a long way away from our true nature. And so, as you remarked, I got into human design. I was told about human design before it actually even existed. And somehow or other, when it showed up in my life 14 years later, I knew this was something I was here to work with full time. And that's what I've been doing since 1993, working with human design. In the meantime, I had worked with all kinds of different spiritual tools, all kinds of esoteric systems. And when human design showed up, I knew this was something really different, really extraordinary. And so I got to put out a book, and the book is now in 15 languages, the Human Design book, Discover the Person You're Born to Be. And then I put out the Book of Lines, which is an I Ching commentary specifically for 21st century, related exactly to the human design system. And then Carola, my wife, and I put out the Book of Destinies, which talks about the 192 different life themes, one of which we have for our lifetime. So all this was going very beautifully. The book's going all over the world, people telling us all the time, finally I begin to understand myself. And human design is a hugely transformational system. Just understanding one or two keys about your human design, everything in your life can start to change. You don't actually need somebody to keep telling you this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. It's in your chart. And I've had it from a very high authority in this world that everything you need to know about your life is in your human design chart. Everything. And human design is unique. It's got a conscious side, like the astrology side from the moment of your birth, but it also has a side where you look at your whole unconscious. And we might say all your past life stuff, all your genetic inheritance stuff, it's all in there. So, yeah, we've been blessed with the system for these times as we make a shift out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. All the systems are falling to pieces. All kinds of new things, new technologies are coming into our lives. And it's essential that we know who we are and what life is here for, what we came here for. So, yeah.
But what about a lot of people have the belief that we choose the lifetime, we choose the family and the situations and the experiences.
I would say more there's a soul agreement. There's a soul agreement. When the sperm hits the egg or something like that, from that moment on, we're in it. And
So you're saying that we don't choose, or it's a little bit muddier than that?
I think it's a lot muddier than that. I think there are soul agreements. I think there are ancestral agreements. I come across a lot of situations now where mothers and daughters have changed places in subsequent lifetimes. The daughter, we were met by this mother and daughter the other day, and mother says to us, my daughter never does what I ask her to do. And the daughter turns to her and says, well, you never did what I asked you to do when I was your mother. So, there's a lot of this going on. And I guess on some level, it's that thing of assisting each other if we can to get clear, to recognize, to remember what we came here for and how to go about it. In the Christian world, there's this wonderful word sin, S-I-N. We're born in sin, we live in sin, and we die in sin. Basically, we're a washout, it's hopeless. But the word sin, if you trace it back to its origin, it means to forget. Right? That's the origin of the word. So we've forgotten who we are, why we came here, what our soul agreement was, and we get shoveled into a society that's completely lost, particularly in this time of transition from one age to another. So, yeah, there's a few things. And human design, to me, having examined all these different esoteric systems, human design literally puts us on the map in our lifetime. When you really understand your human design chart, it is your owner's manual for this lifetime. Unique. Nobody else is living your life. And so, as I say, just a few little keys, and all of a sudden you find yourself in your life. You can actually start to relax, even in these turbulent times.
So tell me about the karma clearing by design. I mean, this is something that didn't make itself known to you at the beginning, almost as if there's, you can only have this much now. We'll give you a little bit more later. Why do we need this? Because we've gone without it.
Yeah.
And many people have managed to, with the knowledge of their charts, to change their lives.
There's depths and depths to human design. And I work on the basis there's a difference between knowledge and knowing. Right? Knowledge there are books, libraries, internet, everything stuffed with knowledge. They keep discovering these libraries in Tibet where there's thousands of scrolls, literally pointing out to the essence of what life is. But it's all knowledge. And it's wonderful knowledge. But the thing of it is, until you actually have the experience of knowing on your own terms, in your own frequency, it's useless. And so we cycle round and round and round, thinking, oh, I'm getting it. And then, of course, we're not. We're following somebody else's pathway. We're copying somebody that lived 2,000 or 1,500 years ago. We're going along with whatever came through them for that time. And we're moving out of that time of faith-based religions. We're moving into the age of the individual, the Aquarian age, as above, so below, the two waves that mirror each other. So really, it becomes clear that not only do we pick up a bunch of stuff in this lifetime trying to copy everybody else or going along with what everybody else has told us, whether in school or church or anything else. You cannot live your life by a system. You cannot live your life by a belief system. You have to live your life true to yourself, and that means according to your own frequency. So, the karma clearing. As I said, we have two calculations. We have a calculation for the moment of birth, which I call our conscious side, which we can actually recognize how this plays out for us. But we also have the whole unconscious side, which I can describe as the genetic inheritance or all the past life information. And it's perfect. So whether we choose the lifetime, whether we get given the lifetime, whether we agree to the lifetime, it's all in there. All that information's in there. Everything for us to get past this forgetting, to get back into the knowing again. So, how did this karma clearing come about? I was beautifully hosted by some Chinese students, and they kept loving the stuff I brought for them. And I went through everything, I would say, in the orthodox understanding of human design, the way it got laid out in the originals. And there came a point in time when I ran out of materials. It's like, I've taught you everything, and I can't keep on repeating the same stuff over and over and over again. You'll lose interest. And they said, well, don't worry, just work out something, just come, come and teach us again. So I thought, okay, I'd always wanted to go into the unconscious side. It takes a little bit of effort. And I always tease people when I'm giving them a reading, looking in the unconscious side. I say, to get this stuff out of you, it takes 10 years working with a psychoanalyst, literally. But with human design, all the information's there. It's just a case of getting into it and recognizing it and acknowledging it. So I set up this, what I call love karma, which is all about relationship, how we relate to each other. Interesting thing, relationship is a noun, relating is a verb. So relationship is a series of reactions, right? You're my partner, you're my boyfriend, you're my mother, and we react. Every time this person comes into our life, we have a reaction pattern. And we begin to recognize that through this process I said about. So I took people through the conscious side of things and just illustrated, do you realize this is how you react every time so-and-so or some new person comes into your life? And they're all going, there's something to this. And then I said, all right, the second day, let's have a look into the unconscious side and just see the patterns that are instilled there, on an unconscious level, what I call the autopilot, how we just do things constantly in reaction. And we got into the program on the second day, and all of a sudden everyone's crying their eyes out. Some are even falling off their chairs onto the floor and huddling up in a little ball, crying their eyes out. And I have no idea what's happened. And I turn to the translator, and she comes across and says, and I said, what's happened? What's going on? Everyone's freaking out here. And she said, all the ancestors have come into the room. And I thought, oh my God. Talk about mystery. I had no idea such a thing was going to happen. But all the ancestors, particularly in the feminine line, had come into the room. Like here, the latest variety or the latest family member, the offspring, has come into the world, and they have this possibility to clarify everything that ever went wrong for us all the way back through time. And it was an
more women
extraordinary
than men.
experience.
Why more women than men?
Let's just say women seem to have this connection that men don't have. They're more at home on the earth plane. Men, what was it? Mr. Gray said, men are from Mars. It looks like men are much more outgoing, reactive. Women have much greater heart connection than men, to start with, until men start getting the plot.
So are you saying then that the women are more involved, more engaged in their descendants helping clear the karma of the lineage?
Especially in the feminine line, because we know, misogyny has been around for thousands of years. We have to go back 4,000 or 5,000 years when women were actually running
That
this
needs
earth.
clearing.
Yeah. So let's just say there's a lot of this karma, this misunderstanding, this reprogramming that's taken place for women. They've not been allowed to go to school. They have to stay home and make babies. And there are still societies that work on that whole basis these days. So let's just say it was a massive eye-opener. I knew something was valid in this new program that had come about, that I'd been guided or offered to do. And I've been working with it ever since. And let's just say I do one-on-one sessions with people, and I say, look, I can't guarantee what it is that's going to change in your life, but count on it. Something or many things are going to change in your life. You're not going to go away from this. You may last a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, but all of a sudden you realize everything has moved into a different dimension. So,
Okay, so
yeah,
let me just ask you this. I mean, you did my human design about 23 years ago. Are you saying that now you have this information, if you were to look at my chart, you would see things there that you'd never noticed before?
totally, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There are
And
keys.
these things are visible in the chart.
Everything's there. It's just a case of interpretation and recognizing and accepting and just seeing all of us. And I'm talking about 98% of the world's population have been encouraged to live in a low level frequency. Just put up with it, deal with it, whatever, react, it doesn't matter. And the only thing going on in this universe is love. So our understanding of love, or how we've been told that love works, or what has been locked into the genetic coding on the loving side of things and the unconscious side of things, what's locked in there, it's just a habit that keeps repeating over and over and over again. So that's why I say the difference between relationship and relating. So this love karma program literally reminds us how to relate. Doesn't matter who it is, what the circumstances are. You've met the person 1,000 times before. You've never met them in your life before. When the clarity is inside you of how to relate, because it's written into your genes, it's written into your coding, and you understand the difference between the reaction and the being available and present. That's what I'm talking about here. Everything changes.
So you mentioned, that you have the books on destiny. How does the clearing for love differ from clearing for destiny path?
So yes, after the after the relating, the love karma clearing, I saw, right, we have to expand this. Why do we have roadblocks in our life? Why can't we just recognize our destiny and just go for it? It's
Yeah.
there. It's in the chart. It's on the conscious side. It's quite clear what we're here to fulfill. However, in our unconscious side, there are agreements or there are roadblocks that have not been cleared from previous times. And so there are various activations in the chart. For example, in the chart, I look at the unconscious moon to start with. Where are we coming from? The moon represents our feeling memories. So on the conscious side, we have a feeling memory from the moment we were born, whatever the hexagram and line number is for the conscious moon. On the unconscious side, the unconscious moon is our memory of everything that we bring with us, whether from this planet, other planets, other lifetimes, whatever. And I start out with it in a low-level frequency. And if you recognize what goes on at a low-level frequency, you can see, obviously, that's why I'm having this lifetime, because I didn't resolve whatever it was that needed to be resolved previously. So we start there. And we just say, all right, recognize, imbibe, attune to the low-level frequency and see what you can tune into. And then we start evolving. We start moving into different things, and we start looking at the nodes. The nodes we can describe, the south node and the north node. It's a calculation of the sun and the moon's orbits where they cross. So the south node where we're coming from, the north node where we're going to. And so in human design, we have these two calculations both on the unconscious side and on the conscious side. So the conscious side is slightly easier to recognize, but we look into the unconscious side and say, all right, if we didn't fulfill our destiny in a previous lifetime, what were the potential roadblocks? Well, the roadblocks would be living out those destiny paths in a low frequency. And so we start out looking at that and just seeing, okay, maybe there's a key for this. Maybe there's a way of moving out of this low level frequency into a higher frequency. And so we go with that. And we start seeing, instead of just being held back by things, whether I could say past life influences, agreements we've made with our ancestry, all that's etched into our coding, until we clear that, there's no question of us being able to fulfill this lifetime.
So you did my chart. You pointed out a few things to me. I changed, I took that to heart and
Yes.
went on with my life and think that, I've been doing okay. And now I'm hearing that there are probably things there, wounds that I've never even noticed or thought about. Do I really want to go back and uncover them?
I can certainly point out a few places for you, Sandie. Yes. Yes.
But, and what would happen if I do? Are you
Well, you'll
saying that if
find
I go back and uncover some of those and work with them and, I don't know, dissolve those patterns, what is the result of that?
there's a transformation that takes place.
A
That's why I
transformation.
say, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks down the road, all of a sudden you realize something's changed. So, for example, I had a client here and for a full day doing this karma clearing. And she'd want to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes or so. And I said, this is a bit unreasonable. I say, why do you need to go to the bathroom so often? Because she says, every time I go there, I tap into my ancestral line again. I meet my ancestors and they clue me into all the gifts they have passed forward to me in this lifetime and all the potential complications I'm here to sort out for them. And this went on the whole day, and it was quite hilarious in the end. And she said when she got back on the plane to go home again, she just cried the whole way home, like she realized she'd had this extraordinary connection. Sure enough, within the next few days, she's got the titles and chapters for the next 3 books she's going to do. She's got the whole lineup for these new products she's going to create, and her whole coaching business has completely changed. Now, I can't say this is a direct result, but I would just say we open the door for this possibility. Other people have come to our trainings and they've gone home and just said everything in their life's now different. They cannot relate to the people in their life in the same way that they did before. So
Hmm.
I can't say to you, Sandie, what would change in your life, but I would just say the immediate sense of relaxation. Never done anything wrong in your life. Always been available to interact with life according to the level of consciousness that you might have had in that time. But what we're saying is there's this possibility to get rid of the habits, the patterns, the situations. You get on an aeroplane and you deal with getting the ticket, and then you meet the person who's kind of checking you in, and then you meet the people on the plane, and you meet the person sitting next to you, and there's all these kind of potential reactive patterns. We always have the same kind of program going on, and then all of a sudden you see with this, when the karma gets cleared, all of a sudden you see, I don't have to relate to this person just as the ticket person, or as the steward on the plane, or the person sitting next to me. And all of a sudden, everything starts to open up. We actually start communicating with each other. It's a magical process.
I understand that when you do this kind of, pattern clearing work, that things are supposed to change back in the lineage and forward. Earlier today, I was thinking about our conversation and somehow something came up with my son, and I thought, that's not a very good pattern for him to have. And I know where he got that. He got that from me. So, what can I do, to clear that pattern in me that then might allow it to clear in him? So are you saying that this is one of the ways that I would benefit from a reading?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You see, why do we have these habits and these patterns in the first place? Is it something we just, like you say, inherit down the line, down the family line? Life circumstances, family situation, school we went to, teachers. We pick up all these habits along the way. This is what you do in this situation, and this is what you do in the other situation. And none of us really get to experience profound love, except every now and again. And when we're in that state of love, nothing can touch us. We're absolutely immune to anything. And that's what we're talking about here. This is basically the entry into the Aquarian age, when we start living from a place of love. And we don't have to go and fight with each other, and we don't have to disagree with each other. And the idea of war is impossible, and racism impossible. There's just love.
Yeah, because when you're in that place of love, nothing else Doesn't touch it, does it?
Doesn't touch you.
Yeah. No.
So
No.
it's just that thing. So why do we have these barriers? Why do we have these reactions? Because we've never been encouraged to be ourselves.
Yeah. That's
None of us,
true.
not a single person on this planet, except in very rare circumstances, ever gets encouraged. You're it. That's it. Everyone else can have their song and dance and whatever. You're it. You're the one. That's your lifetime. That's the important thing.
So, you know, I have a chart, a human design chart, that was created for me. When you're doing, if I came to you for a session, is that chart going to change?
No,
Or is it that you bring in the astrology now and start looking at a lot of the unconscious patterns through the astrology?
no.
No.
It's all in the human design chart. And astrology certainly has its place within human design. I mean, we do that for the calculation, but that's it. It's not an astrology system.
Mm.
Human design, basically, it gives us access to our natural frequency. So we have to use language to describe frequency. But basically, if I can give you the image of this, in the chart, we got these 13 calculations, 13 planets or moon or nodes on one side. On the conscious side, we got 13 on the unconscious side. So each one represents a star field, right? That's the background of it all. And we might say astrology is involved in that because there's a star field going all around us. Each star field puts out what we call neutrinos. And these were a mystery, for a long time until 1997. And even now, people are still trying to work out what neutrinos are. But they're tiny particles. They have a little bit of mass. And they go near the speed of light everywhere. They pass through everything. So imagine a star field with its particular frequency, right, is emitting these neutrinos in all directions, zillions of these things. And some of them come into our little neighborhood, our solar system here. And they pass through the planet Venus on their way to us. And then they pass through us. Right? So what human design described was the frequency of that particular star field, plus the frequency of Venus, right, which is attraction and love and beauty and finance and all these things,
Mm.
gets locked into our genetics at the moment of birth. Right? So we have that frequency plus this frequency locked into us as a part of our frequency. We have 13 on the right, the conscious side. We have 13 on the left, the unconscious side. This is our unique frequency. Nobody else has got this frequency. Before we invented language, there was a system called Sanskrit. Sanskrit was not a written language. It was spoken, or it was sung. We used to sing to each other. And it's all about the frequencies, talking story, telling story. People that can telepath, they know it's a frequency. And they convey the knowing through a frequency. So in these times, we've evolved or devolved or whatever, we've started using language to the greatest possibility. And the thing of it is, you cannot tell truth. You cannot express truth through language. You can get very close to it. You can use a particular word to try and point to something very particular. So in this karma clearing, we have to use language. But the language we've tailored as closely as possible to the frequencies involved of a particular star field. And then we add in the frequency of that particular planet. And then we deliver that frequency. So I have to acknowledge Richard Rudd here of the Gene Keys. He and we became very good friends. I introduced him to human design when we were both living on Maui in 1997. We became firm friends. And I was writing my book of lines at the time. He's got this download looking into the Gene Keys. And we exchanged notes every now and again. And I was puzzling with the book of lines, how do I relate a hexagram? Because it's multifaceted. How do I relate this thing in a low frequency and as in a high frequency as well? How do I write about that? And I would send notes to Richard. And one day he wrote back and said, I got the whole thing. I got the download. And he sent me this whole list of words where two of the words are a low frequency relating to a particular hexagram. and there would be an introvert word and an extrovert word. And so this is our reactive pattern. We remain introvert until we get fed up with that, and then we go extrovert in a low frequency. And we go out with it, and then we find that doesn't work, so we go back to being introvert again. And this is how the whole world operates in reaction. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what Richard came up with was, well, there's a high frequency, and there's a key that takes us out of the low frequency and gives us that opening into the high frequency. And so once he had all this down, I said, well, I don't need to work with this anymore. I will tailor a few words to my understanding of what these words are. But generally speaking, he's got it. He's got the program. He understands. And he does his whole work with the gene keys, and it's brilliant work.
Yes.
So I have to acknowledge him for that I use these same words. There didn't seem to be any point in rearranging that whole alphabet. What I'm about is giving people the possibility to recognize when they're stuck in a low frequency. And that's the reactive pattern. That's the habit pattern, back and forth. Nothing ever evolves. And as I say, 98% of the world's population lives in that low-level frequency. Every now and again, something happens, a great moment in their life, or they fall in love, or they rise in love, and all of a sudden they're in a different space altogether. But what I do is, in this karma clearing, is work with a low frequency, and then just see what's the key here. What's the key that takes us out of this low frequency and takes us into this higher place? And it's
so
magic.
You say that, it could take a long time. It sounds awfully complex. It doesn't sound like something that you could write a manual for me and I've got it, in the same way that I can learn, astrology. This sounds a lot more nuanced than that.
Yeah, it is more nuanced. It's about frequencies, Sandie. And it's the difference between knowledge and knowing. You see, transformation, which is what I'm talking about, transforming your whole life, it's all about frequency. It's all about recognizing whenever I'm stuck in a low-level frequency and using a key or something, some self-remembering to get out of that low frequency to take it into a high frequency. And so, yes, it's nuanced, but it's very simple. When I do these trainings in groups, in the love karma, I leave people with one master key. It's in their design, it's in their whole design. And every time they're in a relating situation and they can see they're about to get it back into the old relationship stuff, and they're going to be in a habit, and it's the reactive pattern. Mum's trying to push my buttons and I'm getting all upset, and so I'm just going to react. In that moment, using the key, and all of a sudden the whole relating changes. And all of a sudden you become friends instead of, mum and daughter or mum and son or whoever it is. Just that, using that key, that self-remembering to use that master key. And everyone's got one in their chart for the relating. And then there's 2 or 3 master keys in the destiny path clearing. And it's again that thing, you come up to a roadblock in your life, you can't see where you're going. And then you remember your reactive pattern. I'm stuck in an old pattern. Maybe it's my pattern, maybe it's an ancestral pattern, and it's never evolved. And I use the key, and all of a sudden everything changes again.
But this is not something I can do for myself. I have to attend a training. Is that correct?
It would be good to do the training work with us, or do the VIP day with us, And we're going to do these. We've been invited all over the place now to do these trainings. Because I've been working with human design for over 30 years now. And it's a hugely transformational system. But mostly I find people get stuck in the knowledge. Oh yeah, I'm a generator. That means I live by a gut response, etc., etc. And fine. If you do that every time, that's fine. But what I'm saying is this slightly nuanced approach to it all. Yes, you're not going to not use your gut response or that energetic response. You're always going to use that. But you're going to recognize where that is going to take you if you apply a higher frequency.
So I'm going to say something here so that I can understand this. I mean, I understand astrology because I've studied it a long time.
Yes.
I understand human design up to a level. So in astrology, for example, we might say to somebody, well, you're a Scorpio and someone would say, well, these are the traits of the Scorpio, the sting in the tail, this is Scorpio. And so someone goes away and says, well, that's my pattern, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm always going to have that sting in my tail. What you're saying here is maybe you don't need to accept that just because that is something that is associated with Scorpios, you don't need to take it on board. You can rise above that. Is that what am I making sense here?
Definitely. I mean, don't they say that Scorpios have 3 levels of evolution?
Yes.
The Scorpio is the reactive side, the stingy, whatever, can't help myself. But the eagle is the highest form of it. You fly above it all and just keep an eye on everything.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with this karma clearing. We can go on in that reactive nature, which we've been encouraged to do from the day we were born, or we can start seeing, I really look for evolution. So why I say, Sandie, that it's all about frequency here. Knowledge is visual, right? We can agree, I'm sitting at a desk in front of a screen. We can agree on that, right? It's all about the visual things, the things we can agree on in some way or other, points of view, discussions, debates. We can agree on a belief system. We can agree on these things. It's visual. Seeing is believing. Transformation is acoustic. It's frequency. It's sound and silence. That is why music is so transporting. It takes you out of a situation into a different experience of yourself. And it's the same thing with the karma clearing. It's about the frequency. So you can read all about it. And in due course, I'll probably write a book about it all. You can read all about it, just like you're going to gain more knowledge about things. But it's the meditation that counts. My whole book of lines, the book I wrote on the I Ching, is all about frequency. I wrote the lines as a single line, as a single phrase, and I encourage people, look in your chart, read this line according to your chart, and then sit with it. Play the words around in your head until you find the frequency. What does it mean to you? Let it resonate with you. And all of a sudden you realize, yes, this is me. This is a part of me. This is my frequency. And it's the same thing with karma clearing. Removing all the reactive patterns, all the things we've imbibed, whether ancestrally, past life, remove all that stuff, clear it, take it into a higher frequency, and then see what happens. And when you start living in that higher frequency, your whole life changes. Can't help yourself.
I think most people don't fully understand frequency.
Okay.
I mean, we think we have an idea of what it is, but we don't, not really. And I must just say that maybe you shouldn't write the book. Maybe you should record it. If it's all in the hearing, that we may take it in better hearing it than reading it.
Well, I've been doing human design readings now, as I say, for over 30 years. And I have a voice that I know by my design. It's a transformational voice. So in some ways, I call myself a glorified piano tuner. And I say to somebody, right, imagine you've got a concert coming up, right? You're a performer and you're at home and you're practicing. You've got it down, right? You are going to do such a great performance. And then you go out on the stage and everyone's cheering and clapping for you, and you sit down at the piano and you start to play and the thing's out of tune. The piano's out of tune. It's the same thing for us in our lives. We have been put out of tune. We've been taken away from our pure nature. We've been encouraged to follow somebody else's ideas about life. Right? Well, how does something written 2,000 or 2,500 years ago relate to us now unless we meditate with it and recognize, okay, this piece of it relates to me, but the rest of it, maybe not so much. All these great people, the Jesuses, the Krishnas, the Mohammeds, all these amazing people that had these downloads or had these extraordinary life experiences and wrote about them, or other people wrote about them. Other people wrote about them. Other people interpreted what was put there. The Bible's gone through God knows how many translations. And even then it wasn't saying necessarily things that was said. The Gospels were written 70 years after Jesus died or disappeared. So, what's been handed down to us is second hand, third hand, fourth hand, fifth hand, and we're told this is the deal. And the thing of it is, you didn't come here for somebody else's deal. You come here for your own deal. And it's why the world is so crazy. It's because everybody's got the best God or the best life or the best, we're the chosen people or this, that, and the other. And it's all crap. All of it. We're all chosen people. We all came here to have this extraordinary life experience. But we've been completely messed up.
So tell me, the clearing itself, is it a matter of getting the frequency, resonating with the frequency,
Yes.
understanding the pattern? Is that enough to let it go? Or does one have to do more?
No, that's it. That's it. And as I say, we've made it very simple. There's just one or two master keys. Every time you're in a reaction mode, use the key and see what happens. It's basically a shift in attitude. It's an inner shift in attitude. I'm going to live my life. I didn't come here to live anybody else's life. It really is. My story becomes the mystery, and then you're in it. You are it.
So you say that, people have a transformational experience afterwards. You can't predict what that's going to be. Is that having the experience enough? Because you offer, follow-up integration sessions.
Yes.
Why does someone need a follow-up integration session?
Reminders. That's all. Reminders.
Reminders.
I mean, literally, Sandie, in the early days of doing readings for people, I'd have people come to the house here, and I'd literally do the piano tuning work. I'd get them completely in touch with their design. They're literally buzzing in their design. They're in a heightened state of realization in themselves. And then they go to the door, to get in their car and drive back home again. And I literally watch as they walk away from the door, going back into the world again, going back into the low frequency again, going, oh my goodness, now I've got to deal with this, now I've got to deal with that, right? Literally. So to me, it's always been a kind of, I love doing the readings for people. Thousands and thousands of readings I've done for people all over the world. But I do realize, unless they're really clear in themselves, and they really trust in themselves, and they're going to keep on trusting themselves, then they're going to lose it. They'll have recognized something changed, I was given some recognition of who I am. But if they're not given these keys, then sooner or later they go back into the same old, with, some heightened realizations in their life. They know something's different. But the karma clearing, because we made it so simple, and we provide people with their unique key, this is not a generic thing, with their unique key, then every time the reaction shows up, they have that possibility of using the key.
So it's a matter of practice makes perfect.
It's self-remembering. Human design from the beginning is a self-remembering device. And it's always that with the karma clearing, it's about recognizing everybody's in a reactive pattern. I don't have to be.
So the karma clearing really deepens the human design reading experience. It takes it to another level, yeah?
Completely, yeah.
Do you do both at once?
Yes, in a sense, yes. It's a full day, but yes, I can do that. But to me, having worked with human design all these years, I recognize the fabulous body of knowledge that was put out by Ra and some people who really understood what he was trying to do. But I lived with Osho for many years. Osho, his whole thing, he could argue this side of a story, he could argue the opposite side of the story.
Hmm.
And then he'd say, well, what's your story? I extend logic as far as I possibly can. I take belief as far as I possibly can. Genius philosopher, literally destroyed all kinds of arguments for and against. So it was a massive, deconditioning. with, oh, I always used to think like this. And then he just says, well, there's no point in thinking like that because there's another side to the story which you haven't considered. His whole thing was about transformation, becoming true to yourself. I lived in that environment for 11 years. It was incredible. Constant encouragement. Be you, be you, be yourself. Don't be anybody else. And so human design literally says, this is your design. This is you. This is unique to you. This is your, as they say, owner's manual for this lifetime. It's huge. But the temptation is to get caught up in the knowledge because we've all gone to school. We've all got our rubber stamps and degrees and exam. We've all been qualified according to other people's parameters. We've never qualified according to our own parameters. And the human design chart shows that. So, yes, all that knowledge is on the page. The karma clearing shows you how to use that knowledge so that you move it out of knowledge, out of a visual acceptance according to everybody else's rule systems, into your own knowing, into your own sovereignty. So it's huge. It's the most transformational thing I've come across in human design to date.
Have you ever seen, when you're looking at somebody's human design chart and seeing whatever it is that you're seeing now, a karmic imprint, let's call it that. Have you ever seen something that was so strong that it took you back? It was something that was not frequent in your experience.
I just have to say, Sandie, I work on the basis there's no good and no bad.
I'm not saying bad, just something that's
there's
really,
no
really
impossibilities.
strong.
There's no, I lived, as I say, in Osho's community. Osho was a master for these times. And let's just say everybody was in that community. Hitler was there, Mussolini was there, all these crackpots, all these people who live extraordinary life journeys. They were all there. And so the master was available to work with everyone, whatever they needed to do to evolve in their consciousness. And it was just that thing. You might say, well, how on earth is somebody like Hitler or Netanyahu or Putin ever going to resolve their karma? How are they ever going to resolve that? Right? There's no such thing as impossible. There are stories of Buddha taking in mass murderers into his community. And these people, wanting to murder Buddha and then just realizing, I want to do the absolute opposite. I want to bring about life. So I'd have to say yes, when I get talking with somebody about the thing and we go into the unconscious and we go into the past life stuff, yeah, there are some pretty hairy things. I don't think any of us get out of, we're not in our first rodeo here and we've made a few blunders or we played some very particular roles. I spent a lot of time in military circumstances. Inevitably, people were going to get killed. Yeah, but I'm still in that process of getting clearer and clearer. That is not part of my life scene anymore. And if I come across somebody and I get this sense that we've crossed swords in the past, let's clear it up. Let's be friends. Let's play some different frequency altogether. So, yes, there are sometimes I see things, it's like, how is this ever going to get resolved? But then I go through the process. And it was the last time, Sandie, that I went to do this karma clearing with a whole group of people from China. And it was going to be a 4-day process, 2 days with the love karma clearing, 2 days with the destiny path clearing. We got into the first day and I was outlining the process and taking people into their journey to understand what is their relating pattern, how to evolve it into a higher frequency, how to get out of reaction. And at the end of the first day, the organizers came to me and said, this isn't working. Everyone's gone off in their head. They're all intellectualizing. They're trying to understand what you're doing here. And I just say, look, this isn't necessarily a logical process. This isn't an analytical process. This is a transformational process. So please bear with me. Trust the process. Trust it. And so, okay, all right. Well, they come back for day 2 and halfway through the morning on day 2, they start to get it. They start to recognize, they start to sense these vibrations in themselves, these frequencies that are out of tune with their true nature. They start to recognize it. And let's just be clear about this, Sandie. This takes people into a very deep place. And part of it, I say, is, yeah, your responsibility this lifetime. But I'm going to say also, part of it is the ancestry you come from. You came in here to sort out things for your ancestry. That was part of your soul agreement. And as I say, there's nothing that cannot be cleared. It can all be cleared.
The Chinese are a race that have very strong connections to their lineage, their ancestors. That's not necessarily the same in the West in certain parts. Do you find that they get this far more easily than, say, British people or Europeans or Americans?
Yes, we poor Brits with the stiff upper lip and the, you
Yeah,
know,
that's got to be clear.
Americans with the all, yes, and the deep religion background that people have. I
Yes.
don't like astrology in the first place. God wouldn't like it, and all these prejudices. I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, the Chinese, in a sense, in my experience of the Chinese people, technologically they are light years ahead of the West. Light years ahead. The bullet trains are magnificent. Everyone's driving electric cars. They're way ahead. The America and Europe are left in the dust. There's a few people that do great things and stuff, but on another level, on a consciousness level, I'd have to say they're quite a bit more innocent. They're very trusting up to a point. And one of the things I was told after the workshop I did was that they were amazed that they didn't experience any kind of judgment coming from me. In this world that's so full of prejudice and racist stuff and all these, they said that they didn't pick that up from me. I wasn't, against anything they did. And they found that quite novel. And I think in the West, we are very racist. We are very caught up in splitting hairs and this is good and this is bad. And I wish we'd get over it. I really do. I wish we'd get over it.
Well, a huge proportion of the world doesn't believe in karma, certainly doesn't believe in past lives. How does one change that belief system?
You go back in time a little bit, and I think there was a synod somewhere around 1200 where the Pope made two decisions. We're going to rule out past lives out of our scriptures. I mean, the Vatican Library is full of this stuff, but nobody can read it anymore. And they did another thing where priests were not allowed to marry anymore, and hence that whole mess up with the pederasts and people. Um, so the priest thing was understandable because if the priest was married, then whatever money he made in his job and whatever gifts were given to the church, he'd pass it on to his kids. So the Pope said, we need the money to come to us. So that, it was a purely financial arrangement. The past life thing, I'm not quite sure why they did that. I just remember, Sandie, growing up in Cheshire and going to our local church as a child. And it was, very ordinary church, but there was a thing called the rood screen, right? The rood. It was R-O-O-D in Chaucer terms, but R-U-D-E in more modern language, the rood, right? So the rood people stayed in the nave, and the priests and the whatever else do their magic stuff up by the altar on the other side of the screen, and never the twain shall meet. That there was a separation between the
Yes.
people and the spirituality. Nobody was allowed to read the Bible until Henry VIII changed everything. So yeah, discrimination, and the whole religion thing's a complete power trip. Jesus was not in any way associating with power. He didn't want to become a political anybody. Just the church has made it be like that. It's a massive pecking order. Every religion is a pecking order. Who's allowed to sit at the front? Who's allowed to go the other side of the rood screen? The whole thing's politics.
Yeah, it is. Do you find that the Chinese are more open to
Yes,
doing this work than the West
absolutely.
is? Yeah.
Yeah. But we've done trainings in the West now, and they have been very amazing. The reports we get back from people that have gone through the training, how everything has taken on a different life for them. Not everybody, but the ones that get it, the ones that practice it, they find everything's changing.
Is this something you think that could replace traditional therapy? Or shadow
So,
work?
absolutely, yes. Yeah, you don't need anybody else to help you with this stuff. You just need to understand what your keys are, what your frequencies are.
How far
And
can you go in one session? I mean, you talk about a day or 4-day trainings. How deep can one go? How much karma can you release?
you know, the ones that I've worked with before have come back again. The ones in China, they come back again. They realized that they took some steps. They remembered they needed reminding. They needed, well, my evolution of understanding of these things as well increases. My tuning into what's going on with people while we're doing these trainings, it increases. I could say I do it in a more evolved way each time. It's a learning curve for me as well as for them, but I do recognize the freedom to be themselves that has shown up as a result of these trainings. And I could say, yes, you can't perform a miracle for everybody, but you can open the doorway that they can find their own miracles.
But given that, we've probably had uncountable number of lifetimes,
Yes.
there's a hell of a lot of karma that's got to be cleared. Is this a lifetime process?
My sense is planet Earth is an experiment. It's an important experiment. And in its present form, it's coming to the end. We're in a carbon-based life form. It's a genius thing. But the conditions for this planet are going to change so radically that the coming of technology and stuff is going to change our lives so radically that the carbon-based experience it's only got another 1,500 years or so. And it's going to change massively in that time. So I look on planet Earth as, yes, a very important part of what can I say, the cosmic child that is being birthed from this universe. There are many universes. There are all kinds of different things going on in all kinds of other places. But planet Earth, I mean, we've all seen that photograph, our little galaxy, and you are here, and then all these zillions of other galaxies all around. They're all part of this universe, or most of them are. I think there's probably a few overlaps, but there is, in the understanding of human design, there is a cosmic child that is being birthed. And planet Earth forms the third eye for the cosmic child. And so whatever happens here, however high we can raise the consciousness here, that's an important thing. But yes, thousands and thousands of lifetimes we've had. This planet, other planets, other solar systems, maybe other universes. Who knows? I mean, we base our understanding of this universe on the Big Bang. Who knows if that's a reality? But everything we seem to recognize here, from the sperm hitting the egg, is a Big Bang. Everything we've modeled this world on, it all comes from that presumption. There was some kind of interaction from which everything else has come.
So you're saying that if I do this, I'm doing this for myself, to clear certain things so that I can be more of who I came here to be and do what I came here to do. But I'm also doing this for the collective.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
and
this
for your
is
ancestry.
this is self-service and it's other service.
Yes, and it can be a lot of fun. That's the whole thing. It can be a lot of fun, just opening up that possibility. Yes, many, many lifetimes. I'll tell you a quick story about my experience with the many lifetimes, if I may.
Mm,
I used to
please do.
drive a thing called the Magic Bus, which was a one-way trip from London to Kathmandu. Right, it was down through Europe, through Yugoslavia in those days, Greece, Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, to India, and then to Kathmandu. So I did this trip a few times back and forth. I mean, just so much fun, such an adventure, so many amazing people, amazing adventures. And this one time I'm in Kathmandu and I've got a little bit of time before my return trip. And I meet this couple, a Swiss couple, and we're having dinner together. And in the doorway of the restaurant, there's a sadhu standing there with his orange robes and his staff. And apparently the Swiss couple had spent time with him during the day, and so they invited him to come in and join us for a cup of tea. So we're sitting there at the table, and he literally turns to this couple and just talks exclusively to them. All about, reincarnation, past lives, spirituality, everything, blah, 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 on and on and on. And I'm sitting there and I'm completely ignored. And it's like, what's this all about? And I interrupt him and I say, can't you tell me something? And he turns to me and says, full moon birthday, and turns back to the Swiss couple again.
Full moon what?
Birthday. Full
Birthday.
moon birthday. I was born on a full moon. That's
Right.
it, right? He can see that in me. I was born on a full moon. But then he turns back to the Swiss couple and for the next 20 minutes goes on and on and on to them, like nothing to me. And I'm, it's like, really? Come on, what am I doing here? And I interrupt him, and again I said, surely you can tell me something else. And he turns to me, looks me right in the eye, and he says, there are many lifetimes, Baba. This lifetime is the most important. And he turns back, and that was it. And that stuck so deeply inside me. We can go chasing after this and chasing after that. In a sense, it's about acknowledging this is where we have come to. Right, this lifetime, this moment in time, this is the reality. So yes, we can go into all kinds of other lifetimes. Is it important? Yes, up to a point. But the whole point is to be present in this lifetime, to get rid of all the habits, all the reactions, all the non-engagements, all the avoidance, to be present here now, living true to ourselves. That's the deal. And I can say about the karma clearing, that opens that doorway for us.
Do you feel that you've reached that place yourself?
Very close.
For when you first, were working with this, I mean, you must have looked at your own, patterns, your own chart, first. What was your response to what you uncovered?
I'd been waiting 14 years for this chart. I was actually told about human design before it even existed, when
Yeah,
I
you
had a
said.
reading in India. And the man said, yeah, get ready for this new system. You're going to write books about it. You're going to take it all over the world. I had no idea what he was talking about. But sure enough, he said, as I was leaving, he says, my encouragement for you is to start reading for people. Find any system you like and just start working with people. Find out what you can tell them, what you can't tell them. So for the next 14 years, that's what I did. I read hands, I read cards, I read auras, tea leaves, coffee grinds, I Ching, astrology. I did everything that I could find. And when human design showed up in my life and I was given my chart, that's what I was told about. That's the new system. So I was ready to go. I'd already, my whole livelihood in those days was reading for people. So what did it do to my life? First thing was, oh, thank God. When I understand a few parameters about my chart, it's just relaxation. It's like, it's obvious. But I'd never been encouraged to see that about myself. And the certain characteristics I have in my chart. In the human design chart, there are certain circuits. There's a collective circuit, the visual one. There is a acoustic circuit, the audible one. And there's a touch circuit as well, like familiarity. I have access to these three circuits in my design. But the leading presence in my design is through my voice. It's through my voice. And so for me, it's all about transformation through sound and silence. The voice I have is a powerful voice. It's a voice that can, as I say, glorified piano tune. I can help people get back in tune with their life. So when I started realizing these qualities in my life, and I recognized what this man in India had told me about, that yes, you're here to work with this thing. You're here to transform people's lives. That's your whole life journey. That's what you're committing to. As I said, I had no idea what he was talking about, but I followed through on what he told me. And as a result of it, yes, it took me to the place where I was ready for human design. And from that, I've allowed myself. I'm a projector by design. Projectors are here to guide people. That's what we do. But if we don't know how to guide or when to wait for the right offering to give guidance, we get caught up in everybody else's concerns. So understanding that about myself, that the best things for me in life happen through somebody coming along and recognizing my abilities and just saying, hey, Chetan, tell us something. Give us a little guidance on this. What's your input here? So, yeah, human design is a magical, magical system. It's a system. As I say, you can't live your life by a system, but
Yeah.
you can certainly upgrade. You can certainly start relaxing into what you gave yourself for this lifetime. You don't have to fight with it. You don't have to play a Hollywood role. You can play your own life to the max. Be sovereign in your own being and go out of life dancing.
So tell me, we're almost out of time now. When and where are you doing your next trainings? Do we have to go to China for them?
Carola and I are doing a program for the Shift Network in September. We're going to be doing a human design program there. We're going to talk about the work that we do. Mostly it's giving people more of a spiritual introduction, if I can say it in that way, to the human design system. I'm definitely going to be in China again for the next karma clearing round and doing classes there with all things willing. Maybe in Thailand as well. We've been invited to go to India to do a training there. We are actually planning on one in the United States come the new year of 2026. So that would be the next opportunity. I am available to do one-on-one VIP sessions with people. All that information's on our website, evolutionaryhumandesign.com. So if somebody feels resonant with this, I'd be happy to have a Zoom call with them just to see if it's really a good fit for them. But yeah, Sandie, I've no idea where we're all going. The world is changing so rapidly. But what Carola and I really understand is we are here to deliver this transformational possibility for people. That's what our whole work is about. Transformation. It's not about changing. It's not about leading people along a little change, change this, that, and the other. Change your diet, change your sleeping patterns. It's not that. It's about transformation. Change your consciousness. Change your attitude. Change the internal attitude, and everything changes.
That, more than anything, is what the world needs.
Yeah.
Chetan Parkyn, thank you for joining me today.
Sandie, you're just a delight. Thank you so much.
So before we close, some thoughts inspired by this conversation. As I see it, karma clearing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what's whole. And it's not so much what I see as what I'm understanding. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that were buried under survival, silence, and generational grief. This is the work of liberation, really, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just for you, but for those who came before you and everyone still to come. And this is how we reclaim the inner power that we were born to live. That's it for this week. If you want more information about karma clearing by design, visit Chetan Parkyn's website at evolutionaryhumandesign.com, where you can also learn more about his trainings, events, coaching sessions, personal readings, and you can purchase his books as well. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another episode of Between Realms and Reason. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you again to Chetan Parkyn.
Thank you, Sandie, so much. Bye-bye.
If today's conversation sparked your curiosity, you'll love our other shows. The Synergy Sessions, where leading-edge thinkers collide in bold, unscripted dialogues that ignite new possibilities. Between Realms and Reason, where we journey into the mysterious consciousness, energy, and the hidden layers of reality, where science converges with spirit in ways you've never imagined. And the No BS Spiritual Book Club, where leading-edge new thought speakers, teachers, authors, and luminaries who've walked this path before you share the 10 books that had the biggest impact on their life journey. All 3 shows are available on YouTube, Spotify, Substack, and all major podcast platforms. For more information, visit sedgbeer.com. That's SEDGBEER.com.